Mary Ann has her hand up.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to interject here that West Center has been, as many of you know, doing a lot of work around digital literacy over the past 2 years. We got a small grant for this coming year to do a pilot program because we've talked about this forever amongst a lot of you about doing digital hubs all over the county. And really up-leveling everyone's skills around that. So any of this kind of work, and I'm glad to attend this meeting, as we know more, when we do this pilot program, probably in early spring, this would be a good time to let people know about things that are available to them in terms of, broadband connections or savings on, connectivity issues, as well as what we plan to do, which is to teach folks who don't have the skill sets for digital literacy to become much more equipped with that knowledge. And our goal, I hope, is to do this all over the county and work with community centers and granges and places where people congregate. So just want to let you know that.
Excellent. Appreciate the. Go right ahead, Jess.
Kind of lagging, so I hope I don't. You guys can hear me, but I just wanted to say that in terms of this ACP program, I know that they just opened the. I just got an update from my DC office in preparation of this meeting, and so they were talking about the fact that they just opened a grant program for the Affordable Connectivity Pilot Program to help navigate people to the sources. So I was going to drop some links in. These are the FCC ACP grants for navigators, folks who want to help navigate people, teach people the literacy that you're talking about. So I'm going to drop those in now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I think that digital literacy is something that, we need to cooperate with West Business Development Center and other like programs to take full advantage of these types of programs, because there is, in those BEAD dollars, there's going to be lots more opportunity. In fact, we should think in terms of ensuring that every person that wants a laptop or a netbook can probably get a free netbook in due time if we line ourselves up appropriately. I think that through the schools, every student that might have need for a netbook could get one. But I think we can expand that to senior centers and all sorts of other outreach. It seems as though that there will be funds for not just programs that help with digital literacy, but also offer hardware in addition to supplementing.
And Jeff, the pilot program that I talk about, it's just a small grant, so there's only so much that we can do. But hearing this conversation, I would suggest using it as an incubator, so that when we apply for BEAD funding, I can give you the data of what people needed, what it's like. We haven't planned the actual program, but all of that information could be captured so that when you go to write the BEAD grant, maybe we can work together to do the digital literacy part, and I could give you the information. So I'm happy to work with anybody who may want to, form the planning of this pilot. And we'll use it with an eye towards getting the larger funds that could really expand the program.
Right.
I just want to put one more plug in for, asking for letters of support. We were really happy to write a letter of support for the LADA grant, and we can usually turn around pretty quick. So any kind of letters of support for any grants that relate to federal grants or even not federal grants on this important topic, just send me an email directly, and I kind of just push it through, loop it through the district office to get those out right away. So we can do a pretty quick turnaround on those letters of support, and they can be helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good to know. Yeah.
So then, let's see.
You're down on 4C, but we really talked about that.
We did talk about the coverage map. We could talk about it further if you like.
Well, Jeff, why don't you just tell them what you guys have done in the way of trying to make clear that the layering really is important?
Well, I mean, just to give you an overview, the amount of money we receive from BEAD program and other federal funding and all broadband grants going forward is dependent on the accuracy of the maps. And we have investigated ways of providing a crowdsourced challenge, which doesn't really affect, it's left to the discretion of the FCC as to whether or not they accept crowdsourced data. They have indicated that it would influence, I mean, if they had suspicions that areas that were marked as served were really unserved, then crowdsourced data would help them to be informed on the subject. But really, you need bulk data challenges or individual challenges to the new FCC coverage map. And it seems as though, I mean, we're still digesting the ways in which, how to read the map accurately and figure out how it applies to a future funding. But we have done the speed test, and we have a lot of good data that suggests that there is inaccuracies regarding the map. However, the data that you submit in bulk challenges requires that you have an individual's name and email address and physical address, and we didn't collect that in our crowdsourced data.
Okay.
And again, I think that when you eliminate wireless connectivity, the maps show what we expect to be seen. That there's no way I can turn that off. I apologize. The maps show that there is coverage in the Fort Bragg area, in the Willits area, in the Ukiah area that meets specifications, but largely there is not coverage elsewhere. So what we're still trying to determine whether or not we really need to mount a true challenge. And it seems as though the maps, when you eliminate wireless coverage and just look at where there are wires for internet, so internet is delivered by copper or fiber, those areas, I mean, it comports with what we understand, that there is coverage in the cities, but there is not coverage elsewhere. And
Tony,
if that holds true, then we don't.
I was going to say, Tony, is there something the county is doing about more accurately reporting the state of the county's connectivity?
So I know Jeff had already mentioned our own crowdsourced speed test data that we have available to us today. And of course, the challenge for us is determining how we utilize that data, since it doesn't comply entirely with the FCC's challenge requirements. It doesn't have the name, let's say, of the person, email address, etc. We can still use it, but as Jeff said too, it's up to the FCC's discretion whether or not they use it to base any of their decisions, or if it's really there to provide supporting documentation for a formal challenge. Now, the formal challenge process is woefully short in terms of a time frame. It's what, mid-January, Jeff? Early January? I don't remember the exact date, but it's mid-early January.
Like
and the amount of to get specifically into the locations to try to do formal challenge processes. We discussed this morning how and there's more discussion to be had about how we want to go through, how we even can possibly go through and challenge where applicable. Now, if you don't mind, Jeff, if I can't share my screen here, I figure it might be good to just bring up the map here for everyone to see, so we can.
We should now have the capability.
Why, thank you. And does everyone see my screen here? We good? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So here we're looking at, of course, the, around the Ukiah, Willits, Mendocino County area. And if we come in and this little gear here on the right, and we select what kind of technology, of course, this is what you see when you go to the map by default. Now, I don't know if this is purposeful obfuscation of the real data or not, but this is what by default it shows. And if we want to bring us into fiber, for instance, talking about what fiber capability we have, you can see how much we have available to us, which doesn't do us much good, but we can go further into cable. And this is, I think, consistent with what we'd expect. You have Willits, Ukiah, Mendocino, Fort Bragg areas around there. And of course, we can drill down further. And the further you drill down, you can start to see individual homes, parcels, etc., and whether they're a green dot considered served or a red dot considered unserved. And if you click that dot, it will give you the providers, etc., that are there, the speeds that they provide, and whether or not they're served and whatnot. And as you change the filters, it will change whether or not it thinks it's served or unserved. So when we're looking at fiber, really, because this is what this is to build out, right, is fixed fiber throughout the county, we don't have any. And so determining whether or not we want to challenge the individual satellite offerings, let's say. Satellite might claim that they serve, but is the lion's share of the work better served trying to contest that, or keep gearing ourselves toward the fact that this is primarily a project to build out fiber, which we don't have. So it could be considered, pertaining to this project, somewhat irrelevant whether or not each home is served by satellite the way they say they are. I don't think it's necessarily irrelevant, but for the purposes of the project, I think that's what we're trying to decide. I don't know if that answers your question or if that was a circuitous way of saying, I'm not quite sure yet. Okay. Thank you.
And that was very good, Tony. I appreciate you bringing that up. And it should be pointed out that when it comes, I think that each of the grants have different requirements regarding eligibility for areas, but the one that we're focused on is the federal funding account, the 57 million last mile dollars, and they don't regard wireless technology as being reliable. And so even if they deliver 25.3, it doesn't eliminate those households. I mean, if a household has the option of a satellite and does receive 25.3, it's still eligible for federal funding because the FCC doesn't regard satellites as reliable. They want the grant dollars to go toward fiber.
And part of that is due to, at least the way it's been described to me, is because they're trying to focus on long-term fixed cost as opposed to operational cost, which fixed wireless requires much a higher degree of operational costs as opposed to the fixed costs of the fiber. And so, again, we're reaching into that point. We don't have the fiber infrastructure already, and while our planning could incorporate, were we to wish to, fixed wireless infrastructure, they are highly advising that we don't go that route as a path of least resistance, and that we focus on building out fiber in our communities as far as we can get them, and collaborate and reach out and partner as much as we can before relying on fixed wireless to make up the difference.
Right. I think there is the potential of the BEAD money being spent on fixed wireless, but first all of the CASIF SB 156 federal funding account dollars must be spent on fiber projects.